Hi you guys, and welcome back to the Scrubs Off Duty podcast. If you don't know me, I am your host, Bree the nurse. I am an ER nurse and currently on my first travel nursing assignment. This is the first time I've ever put my podcast on YouTube, so I'm super pumped about that. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and watch along. It's actually super exciting because now I feel like I can tell you what I'm talking about, because I'll talk about things and then you don't even know what I'm showing you, and I'm like, oh, this, and now you can see it, okay? And I love watching podcasts on the treadmill, so maybe you can watch me on the treadmill, maybe, we'll see. But I'm super excited, and I'm so thankful that I could even do this. I'm so thankful to have my podcast and have the community that I have with you guys. This is gonna be such a good episode. I'm going to be talking about some nursing school funny stories and horror stories. I have a lot of them personally, and then I also asked you guys for some of yours because we all have our funny horror stories, like clinical stories, whatever they are, and reading them are hilarious. Like, looking back now, it's not a big deal, but in the moment, it's just like the craziest thing. Worst time of our lives. Nursing school is no fun. So let's get into the episode. Let's start it out with my first day of clinical. So let's give you a little background here. I got into nursing school, I turned 18 basically a few weeks before I started. So I had never worked in healthcare before, zero experience, no idea what I was doing. So our first clinical, I was like a deer in headlights, scared out of my mind. Granted, we were at a nursing home, and so I really shouldn't have worked myself up as much as I did. But we literally went there to grab vital signs, clean up the patients or the residents and help them eat their breakfast. It was maybe like a 3-hour clinical, not a big deal at all, okay? And I was gonna throw up basically right before I got there. So nervous. I didn't know how to talk to anyone. I'm like, do I just walk in there and say like, hey, my name is Bree? What do I do? And thank the Lord, they paired us up with another nursing student on our first day. And the nursing student I got paired up with was already a CNA. He had so much experience and he actually worked in a nursing home. Thank goodness, because I was lost. And basically I followed him around like a puppy, trying to figure out what to do, because I had no idea what I was doing. And the patients probably were like, this girl, what? She should not be in nursing school. She is clueless. But I walked into the room of my patient and I was like, hi. And I promise you, I just stood there. And I was like, what are you doing? Do you even know what you're doing? Why are you just standing there looking like a fool? It's so embarrassing thinking back about it. Hopefully the person doesn't remember the situation at all. But I just stood there. I'm like, oh my word, what did I think I was gonna do by just standing there? But a couple of you guys told me similar stories, and the patients said to you, what are you doing? Or do you need something? And thank goodness my patient did not say that to me, because I probably would have cried. But I ended up putting on my patient's brief backwards, okay? And that was probably one of the most embarrassing things I've ever done in my life. I don't know why I thought it was different than how you put on a baby's diaper. Not saying that they're the same thing, but the Velcro goes in the front, or you put it in the front, wrap it around the front, wrap around, do a little wrap around, okay? And I was just, I don't know, I'm nervous in the moment. I literally put it on backwards, and thank goodness the nursing student I was with was so nice. He was like, you gotta put it the other way. And I'm like, I'm struggling, trying to put the Velcro on their back. I'm like, do you have common sense? But it's so funny that these are embarrassing stories that now I look back, I'm like, you know so much more now. You have learned so much, because I feel like a lot of the times time flies and you really don't notice your personal growth. And I'm like, wow, we've come a far way, okay? We've come a long way, thank goodness, because it was needed. But I really wanted to talk about all these stories because I feel like you feel less alone when you talk about it. Like we all, if you don't think you had an embarrassing story, you know, maybe you didn't, good for you. But come on, you gotta dig deep. You gotta think about it. I feel like everyone has an embarrassing either like patient interaction story or nursing school clinical instructor or like professor embarrassing story. You have to have had like some dumb moment. Not dumb, but like, you know, like some like, really, what was I thinking moment. And that's totally okay if you had. That's how you learn. And now looking back at it, you'll be like, wow, remember those good old days? Also throwing it back to my first check-off. My first check-off was a Bed Bath. And again, no experience at all. I don't know how to do anything. And this Bed Bath check-off list, I swear to you, had like 96 bullet points that you needed to get, all these things. And so of course, like I'm practicing doing it with my clinical partner. Like I swear we probably practiced a Bed Bath, not actually doing it, you know, but walked through it with my partner probably for 4 hours. And I'm like, girl, you were practicing a Bed Bath for that long? Like, but I feel like they make it so overcomplicated. I mean, maybe to fail you, like, I don't know, freak you out, give you anxiety. If I could change nursing school, that's like the one thing I would change. Why do we need to make it so anxiety filled? Like, it does not need to be that much pressure. I feel like if it was more of a supportive learning environment, nurses would do so much better, and maybe we wouldn't have all this pre-shift anxiety. You know, just throwing it out there. But I was so nervous, and it also happened to be the same day that my nephew was getting born. My sister was literally in labor. I had been at the hospital with her for a few hours. I went that night, and then I stopped by that morning because I was like, come on, have the baby. Like, I need to know because you aren't allowed to have your phone with you during checkoffs. And she hadn't had the baby until I was literally in the middle of my checkoff, and I came back after my checkoff like freaking out and found out that she had him. But I was, you know, maybe a little sleep deprived, kind of my mind was elsewhere because I was excited about my nephew getting born that day, you know. But I literally almost threw up. I was so nervous, I was shaking, like my stomach was so upset. I went to the bathroom and I dry heaved. Sorry, TMI. But I dry heaved a little bit. Nothing came up because I couldn't even eat. You know, when you're like, number one, I don't really like eating that early in the morning anyway because clinical started at the crack of dawn. And it was always really nauseous in the morning, so I would like bring a smoothie to drink when I felt like it was a reasonable hour to eat. Like 9 a.m., 8 a.m., not 5 something. And I was like, oh my gosh, you gotta get it together because they're gonna call you and you're gonna be in the bathroom throwing up while they're calling your name and you need to be doing your checkoff. Like, what are you doing? Come on. Anyway, I ended up doing just fine. But any other checkoff after that, I was pretty much anxious. Not as anxious. I think it was just bad because it was the first one. But I'm like thinking back, I'm like, you got that worked up. You were dry heaving over a bed bath? Girl, like, really? But it's so, like, I know other people are like this. I know someone else feels my pain and went through the same thing and maybe even actually threw up, and I am so sorry. Hopefully now you can look back at it and laugh at yourself. I don't know, because I'm glad I can laugh at myself now, but in the moment I was serious. Like, it was a big deal. But like, can we change nursing school? Why does it have to be like that? They put so much pressure on you, and I feel like it's so unnecessary. It does not need to be that serious. I mean, yes, like, you need to pass your checkoffs, but they don't need to put so much pressure and anxiety on you that you're throwing up in the bathroom before. Another really bad, these are like all, I've been thinking about these for a few days because I wanted to come up with my best ones. And I have a few really good ones. But I was so nervous for like my vital signs checkoff because you had to do a manual blood pressure, which, like, just the thought of a manual blood pressure is so nerve-wracking because you had to be, I think, within 2 of your instructor, and they had like the double stethoscopes, and so they're listening to your partner. at the same time as you, and like, that's a lot of pressure. And I had to do the radial pulse and an apical pulse. And I was so nervous. And I think I did blood pressure. No, I think I did, yeah, I did blood pressure, radial pulse, and then apical pulse last. And I got the blood pressure, and I was pretty confident about it. I practiced that thing on everyone. I mean, my parents got their blood pressure checked multiple times. I'm like, all right, come on, I gotta practice, let's see, like, and I got that fine, but they didn't tell you until after you did all 3 of them. So I mean, my heart is beating through my chest. Like, I felt bad for my clinical partner when she had to count my heart rate. I was like, I'm so sorry. She's going, she's beating. And I always like to go first. I was pretty close friends with my like lab clinical checkoff partner. And I always like to go first, and she always liked to go second. So it kind of worked out. It was like the perfect match. But I like to go first because if I sat there through hers, I don't even know if I can make it through it, because I'm just thinking about it and I'm watching her do it, you know, and you just get even more anxious. So I just wanted to get it done, get out, get it over with, whatever. So I ended up doing the blood pressure just fine. And then I did the radial pulse, and I panicked. I'm telling you, like, I'm sitting there counting, my mind went blank. Like, I literally made up a number. I swear to you. I swear to you, I made up a number. Like, I'm pretty sure I said like 88 or something. Like, I'm like, all right, choose something with a normal range and just write it down, because you had to write it all down. And I panicked, and I was like, please, 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 please. And so, you know, I still didn't know if I passed that one or not. Moved on to the apical pulse. I got that one fine. So at the end of it, she was like, yeah, you didn't pass the radial pulse. And I was like, oh my gosh. And you know, like, you walk out after your checkoffs and everyone's like, oh, how'd it go? Like, that was so easy. Like, you know, or like after a test, they're like, oh, yeah, I got this question, like this answer. And you're like, I did not put that answer. But I like walked out, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, that was so much easier than I thought. Like, I nailed it, like, totally got it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I failed the radial pulse. Like, I look so stupid for failing a radial pulse. Like, come on. And so I like didn't even talk to anyone, because I was like, oh yeah, it went great. But no, seriously, I'm like, it's not even that big of a deal now. Like, I know how to count a pulse, okay? And when they let you do a makeup, you only had a certain amount of checkoffs that you could actually fail. I think it was like maybe 3, and then you were kicked out. And that was the only one I ended up failing. Praise the Lord, thank goodness. But I went and did my re-checkoff or whatever, and I got it spot on. And it was so much less pressure in that moment. I feel like it's just like, you get so worked up when it's actually, you're with all your classmates. Like, it was just me, the instructor, and the student, or my lab partner. And I got it done, got in there, got it, and I was like, oh my gosh, girl, you got all worked up over counting someone's pulse. Like, I'm not telling, I was panicking. I don't even know what happened. I like blanked out in the moment. I literally made up a number. And if I would have gotten it right, wouldn't that have been amazing? You know, like, if I would have guessed it. But I mean, there's no way. But thank goodness my lab partner was so supportive and so sweet, and like, we truly got through it together. I don't think I would have gotten through it with anyone else. Like, we would practice. She was always so willing to practice with me and, you know, with each other a million times until we got it spot on. It's just so funny to me, because I was so much more worried about the manual blood pressure that I was like, oh, the pulse, like, the pulse is so easy, you know, like, I don't even need to worry about that, it's just counting. And I got the blood pressure spot on, and then nope, didn't get the pulse. But it's so fine. Like, you can fail things and still make it through. You can fail nursing school and then try again. You can fail your NCLEX and try again. Like, it doesn't matter. You think my patient's gonna say, like, did you fail your radial pulse checkoff? Or how many times did you take your NCLEX? Like, there's so much pressure to be perfect. And obviously, you know, you don't want to be making huge mistakes, because you do have patients' lives in your hands, but that you are able to fail and learn from your mistakes and grow. Like, stop putting so much pressure on yourself. I feel like that's the one thing I wish I could tell baby nursing student Bree. Like, it'll all be fine, girl. It's all gonna work out. It'll all be fine, I promise you. Nursing schools have like the most ridiculous rules with how you can dress. Number one, I had to wear, they luckily changed it a couple years before because I went to the same nursing school that my sister-in-law went to, and she had to wear white top and white bottoms, which, like, why would you ever wear white bottoms? Especially in a profession that is so predominantly female. White bottoms? What? Like, come on, let's put two and two together. I'm like, but thank goodness I got to wear black bottoms, but a white top in healthcare? Like, do you know what we touch? All the bodily fluids that could potentially get on us, and we're gonna wear white? Who came up with that? Whose idea was this? But because of that, we had to wear white socks, and we couldn't have any like nose piercings or anything. You had to put like the plastic fillers. I don't know what the actual word for it. I don't have a nose piercing, but, and they said you couldn't have your doubles in. And I have my doubles, my just, you know, my earlobes pierced. And one clinical, oh, and then the white leather shoes. White leather shoes are so uncomfortable, you guys. Really, like, can I just wear like normal white shoes? And white shoes, again, why white shoes? What about like black? Black, you can't see when black shoes really get dirty. Like white? Are you kidding me? I wash those things all the time. I wipe them down all the time. Crazy. I mean, you should be wiping your shoes anyway, but you know what I mean? Like, they just show everything. No forgiveness with white, okay? Like, everything gets dirty so much faster. Bleach is my best friend. But I wore my double earrings. I mean, the clinical was really early in the morning. I got up, I got ready, I drank my coffee. Like, I'm rushing out the door. I don't want to be late, because if you're late, shoot, like, you're out of luck. Like, you're in trouble, big bad trouble. And so I get there, and my clinical instructor goes, Bree, you have 2 earrings in. And I was like, what? What do you mean? She's like, you're not allowed to have 2 earrings in. And I'm like, touching my earlobes. They're like, oh my gosh, girl, you forgot. And like, I got in trouble for it. And I'm like, please tell me. It's not like I have like big hoops on that are interfering with my job. I don't even think hoops would interfere with your job, but maybe like a safety risk getting them yanked on or something. But why does it matter if I have 2 little studs? I think I had like 2 little pearl studs in my ears. Like, why does that matter? And people would get in trouble for not having white socks on. Luckily, I'm short, okay? I'm like 5'3", 5'4", and my pants were way too long. Even though I got the petite length, they were way too long, and I would actually, like, they would get caught. I should have hemmed them, but I didn't. But they would get caught under my shoe, like I would step on the back of them. Short girls, can you relate? And my socks wouldn't show. So I would, you know what, I was a little risky, okay? Little rebellious nursing student Bree, I would wear fun socks, because if there's one thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna express my personality. And I still wear fun socks to this day. I pride myself on wearing fun socks. And you also couldn't wear a different badge reel, which I didn't really know about all these different badge reels back then, so it didn't really affect me that much. But you had to have like the school's badge reel on. So it's like, all you had to show for yourself were your socks. Even though no one could see my socks, I would still wear fun socks, because you know what? I knew they were under there, okay? I knew I had some fun socks on. But you could never tell, because even if I like crossed my legs, you know, like when your pants get pushed up a little bit when you cross your legs, you still couldn't tell because my pants were so long. So I got away with it. They still didn't know, so scandalous of me, right? But people would literally get in trouble for not wearing white socks. I'm like, does it really matter? I understand looking professional, but does it really matter what color socks you have on? I don't think anyone's gonna judge you thinking like, oh my gosh, she has pink socks on. She cannot be my nursing student. Like, or he cannot be my nursing student. He has blue socks on. Like, I really don't think it's that serious. Why do they make such a huge deal about it? Then I ended up having school during COVID. I was a nursing school pandemic baby, okay? And I had to do, for some part of it, they tried their best to get us in the classroom as much as they could, but there were also like so many outbreaks. And I think my last semester, or my second semester, the second half of it, I was totally online for the end of the year. And so we had to do all of our tests and quizzes, which we had a test or a quiz every single class. Which I actually, you know, like it was a lot, I will say that, but I actually think I liked it like that, looking back, because it kept you studying. I feel like once you put off studying, like you're like, oh, I don't have a test for 2 weeks, then you're cramming the night before. I feel like the way they do it, you know, there's a method to their madness. I don't like admitting that, but there's a method to their madness, why they do things. So I feel like it helps me stay on top of things and actually not cram for things by having me have a test or a quiz so often. But we always had our classes and tests in person. So when COVID happened and we had school at home, basically we like did everything over Zoom, and then we had all of our tests and quizzes on a lockdown browser. And I was so scared. Like, you have to scan you hold your computer up and like you show the whole room around you, and you can't talk, like you can't, they're like, I mean, like someone watches the whole video of you taking the test. And I didn't cheat, so it's like I wasn't nervous about that, but I don't know, it's just like weird, someone watching you. And the one day I potty trained my dogs with a bell, and the bell's hanging on the door. I would take my test. This was my old apartment, so it was a lot smaller, and I would just take my test at the kitchen table. And my kitchen door is where the bell was for Betty Lou, because I didn't have Belly then, but the bell was there for Betty Lou to ring to go potty. And I was taking my test, and of course, like, Betty Lou is an angel, okay? She's such a good dog. She sleeps like 90% of the time. Normally doesn't make a fuss, no problems, but whenever you're like on a phone call or doing something important, like taking a test or in a meeting, like she's gonna bother you, because she's like, oh, I want attention. Like every single time I record a podcast, these dogs go crazy. Like right now they're sleeping, thank goodness, but most of the time they start running around, barking at each other, like playing hardcore. I'm like, girls, really? Any meeting I've had, I just had a meeting the other day and I was gonna lose it on them. I kept having to mute it and go walk away. I'm like, you guys, and I even like give them a Kong or a bone to try to distract them, and they want no part in it until after the meeting, and then they're fast asleep again. I'm like, really? Really? Anyway though, so I'm taking my test. I had already scanned the room to show that, you know, no one was in there and nothing was on my like desk. And I'm taking the test, and Betty Lou starts ringing the bell. And I'm like, Betty, no. Like trying to talk without talking, because you can't talk. And I also, like, I'm an out loud thinker. I say things out loud all the time. So that was a hard thing for me, like having to be like, okay, you can't talk out loud. Not that I would talk loud during a test, but like sometimes I would whisper read the question while I'm taking the test, and you can't do that either. So I'm trying to yell at her discreetly to be quiet, because I can't take her out right now, and I was almost done. So I was like, just wait, like you'll be fine, hold it in. And so I'm trying to tell her to be quiet, and you know, get done with the test, think, all right, it's fine. Like they can clearly, you could actually see her in the background ringing the bell. So I'm like, all right, you know, didn't think anything of it. And I get a message 3 hours later from my instructor saying I failed that test for cheating. And I was like, what? Cheating? What are you talking about? I didn't cheat. And they said that there was background noise. And I was like, oh my word. And so I'm panicking, you know, like I fail a test like that, like a full-on 0. I mean, it's hard to come back from that, right? And then like to have a cheating accusation against me, I was like, this ain't looking good, okay? Like I'm panicking. I'm gonna fail out of nursing school. I'm never gonna be a nurse. Like no other nursing school is gonna want me because this nursing school said I cheated when I didn't. And so I'm to call her. I write her an email, like she hadn't answered my call, so I write her an email and I'm like, I didn't cheat, yada, yada, yada. Like, can we watch this over? Like, what can I do? And they ended up taking my explanation from it, which is very rare because I feel like a lot of the times nursing professors are like super duper strict, okay? Like super strict. Like, for example, maybe it's just my nursing school that I went to, but I feel like this is a common thing. But my grandma ended up passing away my last week of nursing school of my first year during finals week. And we did hospice at home with her, and I helped take care of her. Like, my whole family was there. We wanted to spend the most time with her that we could. And I wasn't thinking about school. That was not my priority during that time. My priority was to be with my grandma before she passed away. And so I think I had 2 classes at that time. I had a pharmacology class and then some sort of basic med-surg class, maybe like med-surg 2. And I messaged both of my instructors at the beginning of the week when my grandma was deteriorating and we decided to do hospice at home. And I said, hey, this is the situation that's going on. Like, I'm not sure of the timeline, but I just wanted to let you know and communicate with you because I felt like that was the respectful thing to do. And because they always said, like, keep us in the loop with what's going on in your life, whatever. And I felt like, you know, timing-wise, this might not work out well for finals week. Not that I, like, wanted more time or anything, but my grandma ended up passing away, and the next day I had my med-surg final. And I hadn't studied a lick for that test, okay? Like, again, I was not focused on it. And so I emailed my professor, and the day after that, the day after the med-surg when I had my pharm one, I emailed both of them and I said, hey, my grandma ended up passing today. Like, is there anything I can do? Like, I haven't really studied. Like, I've been with family, I've been with her, and you know, spending my last few days with her. And my med-surg professor said, I can give you 1 more day, but I would have to take 5 points off your test automatically. And I was like, really? Like, there's nothing you can do? I'm not trying to buy more time, like, just to buy more time. Like, I genuinely had a family emergency. Like, you would think nursing being such a compassionate field that nursing professors would, like, share that compassion and reflect that onto their students, but that's just really not the case. Which, let me clarify this. My pharmacology professor said, take however much time you need. I am, you know, here for you and your family. Like, I'm so sorry for your loss. Sending my condolences. Like, no questions asked. Let me know when you're ready and you've had time to study and process everything. Like, this is a big life thing. And again, like, I wasn't trying to look for a bunch of time and all this, but, like, I just asked for 1 more day because I was not ready. And I couldn't even think that day, let alone study. Like, I was very close with my grandma, and it was a lot. I was just kind of in shock that my one professor just was, like, not showing me any grace. Not that she needed to, I wasn't expecting it. I don't know, I was just like, wow, like, you can't, I'm not just, like, blowing it off to blow it off. You're gonna automatically take 5 points away. Like, what's the point of that? Like, those 5 points could be, you know, the difference between me passing and failing. So I ended up just taking it and not taking an extension because it wasn't worth it to me. Like, but it was just really sad. I felt like I expected to see more compassion from a fellow nurse or nursing instructor. Like, yes, you're my instructor, but you're a person. Like, you know what it's like to go through traumatic things and to lose people in grief. Like, but nursing school doesn't have compassion for you, unfortunately. And I think that's something that should change, because I know plenty of my other classmates went through significant losses as well. And, you know, divorces, child loss, other family members, you know, like, it's hard. Life still goes on while you're in nursing school. Life still happens. Like, nursing school might, you know, be a huge portion of your life and take up so much time of your life, but you also have a life outside of it. And I think professors sometimes forget that. And I just was hoping for more compassion. And you know what? It was stupid of me to even think that I would get, you know, even a day extension and not lose points because they don't care. Like, I feel like they honestly sometimes just do not care about you. They care about the numbers. They care about, you know, they want to make it harder than it needs to be. Like, one more day probably would have helped me get a better grade, you know? Like, if I could have actually spent the time and studied, not with a clear head, because one day's difference didn't help my grief very much, but just not a day that I was, it was just, yeah, I don't know. I still think about that a lot, and luckily that professor retired, and she isn't, you know, affecting people's lives in that way anymore. But it's just sad. So let's not talk sad anymore because it's upsetting. But I really hope that this generation of nurses and the new upcoming nurses can, when they become professors, if they decide to do that, that we can kind of change the culture, because I really think we're in a new, better era of nursing and confronting bullies and trying to support one another more, and I really appreciate that. And I think one thing that I really wish people would get from anything I post on social media is that I want to be a support system to everyone, and like, I want a good culture of nurses. Like, stop the bullying, stop the hate, like, just support one another. Our jobs are all equally hard no matter what specialty you work in. Stop the competition. Like, we need to support one another. Our jobs are hard enough. Like, feeding into like, bullying is feeding into that reputation that people, or stereotype that people say that nurses were the bullies in high school or mean girls in high school. Like, and everyone hates when people say that. So don't make it true. Don't be that way. Be kind, be nice, show compassion towards your coworkers, towards your patients, towards yourself. It's hard enough. So supporting one another makes it maybe a touch easier, so let's do that. Now, let's talk about a funny story, because I'm over the sadness right now. I don't want to talk sad anymore because I probably will cry. But let's talk about a funny story. Another checkoff story. Why are all, like, my checkups are so traumatic to me. I made so many, like, silly mistakes that I've now learned from. Mistakes are okay. But this one's pretty funny. It wasn't really a mistake. It was just, like, something stupid. I was doing my MedPass checkoff, and I was hanging and spiking, learning how to hang and spike, or checking off on it, a bag of fluids. And I was at the cabinet with my professor. We were looking at the computer because you had to do your 5 rights and check the MAR with them and speak out loud what you're doing. So I was doing that, and I was bent over, like, looking at the computer at the counter, and I lifted my head up once I was done going through all the rights, and I hit my head so hard on the cabinet, because it was like, so, you know, supposed to be like a room where they had the cabinets there. And I laughed, and I was like, oh, I'm so clumsy, like, made some silly comment like that to try to make the moment less awkward, you know, trying to bring some humor into it, like laugh it off sort of thing, because I was embarrassed, okay? And my professor literally blank face, did not react at all, didn't laugh, didn't smile, didn't say like, oh, are you okay? Like, literally did not react at all. And I was like, oh my God. I just made an embarrassing moment 10 times worse. Like, I don't know, like, you can't laugh at that. Like, at least fake laugh to make me feel a little bit better. Like, but I was so embarrassed, and she like moved on like nothing happened. Like, again, why so serious? Like, laugh at me. If I was a professor and that happened with one of my students, like, I would probably crack up laughing with them if they were laughing. Well, first of all, I'll be like, are you okay? And then crack up laughing. Like, I think that's funny. Like, laugh a little. But I still think about that all the time. So I asked you guys on my Instagram, which if you're not following my Instagram, follow, please, at Breathe the Nurse and at Scrubs Off Duty Pod, and the same handles are on TikTok as well. But I asked you guys some funny stories, funny nursing school stories, and you guys came through, okay? So I'm gonna, there's a list here. I'm gonna read some of my favorites. Someone said, again, I'm reading these because I want you to feel less alone. Like, so many people make these, you know, have these funny stories from things they've done and learned from, because you are learning. Like, it is so okay to do these things and learn from them and, you know, share these stories now and laugh about it. Like, everyone makes mistakes, learns from them. It's okay. Give yourself grace and laugh about it later because it's funny. Like, it will be funny. It might not be funny right now, but it will be funny one day. Someone said, the first time I gave insulin, I threw the whole pen into the sharps and not just the needle. I think that one's funny. Okay, this one, like, does not seem okay. My clinical professor had us show her our white socks and white bra every clinical. Maybe the socks, but like showing your bra, like that does not seem like that should be allowed. Someone said, I charted that I heard lung sounds bilaterally after I reported to an instructor that my patient had a lobe removed. This one says, my instructor left me in the room while doing an assessment with a patient who only spoke Spanish, and then I tried to converse with him and ask dumb questions like, do you feel any ouchies? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I do think that there is such a struggle with communicating with patients that, you know, you might not speak that language, and yes, a lot of hospitals have translators, but I think it's really a hard thing, and I think we should be taught. I know I wasn't really taught any frequent sayings in nursing school that you should know. I educated myself out of school, but I think that should be something maybe implemented into nursing school, like basic statements that you should know, especially in emergency situations in other languages. This one's really funny too. I was getting a report and asked when a colostomy patient's last bowel movement was. That's really funny. I killed my VSIM patient technically. I didn't realize he had a heart attack. Okay, Sims. Oh my goodness, I forgot to think about any funny simulation stories. Gosh, I probably have a few. That could be a whole episode in itself. Those scared the crap out of me, and I feel like they always made it so hard, which is a good thing. I really think they're helpful in making you critically think, so I do appreciate them and I understand why, but oh my gosh, I would get so worked up in those. We were learning how to turn and boost patients, and a friend of mine was the fake patient, and we all boosted her on 3, and one of the girls was like, wow, I had no idea you weighed that much, and she was the skinniest thing ever. Why would you say that to someone? Why would you say that to someone? Oh my goodness, people are so rude. I had a patient with no fingers, and so I had to get a blood sugar on his ear. As I'm lining up to poke him, he yells out suddenly, scaring me, and I drop everything and yell back. He and my clinical instructor die of laughter, and I stood there mortified. Hey, I understand. I'd be really like mortified as well, but I do think it's kind of funny when your clinical instructor and your patient like can get along and like laugh and not poke fun at you, but like make the situation a little bit more lighthearted. I have to say, I have never had to check a blood sugar on an ear yet. Funny but not, my instructor almost failed me during clinical because I looked too tired. Like they just try anything. They really try anything to fail you, I swear. My worst fear happened where I had to take care of an old instructor as a patient. I got puked on like all over my torso my first day of clinical too. Oh geez, that's rough. I luckily have avoided, there's been some close calls, but I have avoided all bodily fluids, or not all bodily fluids. There have been some close calls, but I have avoided puke getting on me multiple times. I've really learned to like duck and roll, baby. Not tuck and roll, duck, tuck, and roll. Because you gotta duck sometimes. I went to re-spike a bag of normal saline and took the spike out while it was still hanging and fluid went everywhere. I stuck the new spike in it and it slips out, spilling even more normal saline all over. I have done that before actually, where you switched a bag and like you just don't think, like I've done that. I think probably majority of nurses have done that and it spills. But it's okay. I once asked the people from the morgue if they needed the vital sign machine thing because they kept staring me down, and I wondered why they told me no in the most dramatic way until I figured out who the people in the gray scrubs were on the unit. I do not think the people in the morgue will be needing to take vital signs. This one is really good. I asked the patient to use the urinal because of intake and output, and the patient thought they had a poop in it, not pee. That is so funny. Like, did they make it in there? Did it all get in there? Oh my gosh, that is really funny. My professor was arrested and her picture posted on the county Facebook page, and she showed up in class the next day like nothing happened. The whole class knew. Ooh, that's some tea. How? I feel like, wow. I didn't really know about those county Facebook pages until my boyfriend showed me them. And I was like, wow, how can they post stuff like this? But it's all public record. But I didn't know, like, that people made Facebook pages for these things. Like, really putting people out here on blast. That is so funny. All right, well, that's enough of those for now. But I think I might need to start doing these more often because those are really good. And I'm not trying to make anyone upset if I laughed at what you said. They're funny stories. Like, let's look back at them, grow from them, and just show that, like, you know what? Probably tons of people have done these things. You are not alone. But at the end of the episodes, I always want to like talk about little things that are going on in my life that really aren't nursing related at all, because there is more to life than nursing, and you gotta have that work-life balance, baby. I preach it all the time. Have that work-life balance. So let's do a little life updates, skincare updates, things I'm loving, books. Let's get into it. So I just finished In 5 Years. I've been wanting to read that book for a while, and I saw it at Sam's Club and they had it for like 10 bucks. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna grab it. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I didn't cry. A lot of people said that I would cry, but I didn't cry. Again, if you listen to my episode with Nikki, I've never cried over a book, and I think I'm a heartless person. Because of that, I really want to cry. But I'm reading right now, I think it's called If He Had Been With Me. And she said she cried really hard over that book, so we'll see if I cry. Maybe. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. I'll keep you posted. I'm like 25% of the way through it and hasn't been sad at all. But In 5 Years was sad because it was like a best friend thing. Cancer was involved. I think it was sad, don't get me wrong. It was really sad, but I didn't cry from it. And I think it also doesn't help when I like read it in chunks over a few days. Like if I were to read it in one sitting, it might be a little bit different. I might cry from that. But I read it so in a few days in chunks that it breaks up the sadness a little bit. I am now a month into my travel contract, which is absolutely crazy. I cannot believe we've been here for a month already working, and I am really loving it. I really thought about extending my contract. But the thing is, I want to be in Michigan in the summer. Michigan summers, Midwest summers are the best, 10 out of 10. If you haven't experienced Michigan in the summertime, you truly are missing out. Anywhere in Michigan is so amazing in the summer. I mean, the UP is amazing. Anywhere along Lake Michigan is amazing. Like Petoskey, Traverse City, like it's all so nice. It's all great. I love going to the UP. It is so beautiful up there. I can never say this word. Tequamaneck Falls. How do you say it? Stop, Brandon's laughing at me right now. I can't say it, but it's the falls up there are so beautiful in the UP. Amazing. You have to go if you haven't seen it. It's a drive getting up there though. Mackinac is amazing. So pretty. So much to do in Michigan in the summer. Just boating anywhere, just the beaches. It's great. 10 out of 10. Weather's amazing. Perfect temperature. It's humid though. I'll let you know it is humid. But if you're in the lake, you'll be fine. So I really wanted to be home in Michigan in the summer. Plus, like, I wanted to be home for a few months. And then we were talking, we want to probably go somewhere in the fall. So it just wouldn't time out right to extend our contract here, even though we truly love it here. It's amazing. I also don't think I could do the 130s temperatures in Arizona. Like, I am not made for 130 degrees. I don't think I can do it as much as I love it here, but I would 100% come back in the future. Like, it is so nice here. Love it, love it. Couldn't talk better about it. And my Arizona licenses are good for 4 years. I didn't know. For some reason, I figured that like everyone did 2 years because Michigan, their licenses expire in 2 years. So I just figured everyone did the same thing, but that is not the case. Arizona's 4 years. So I'm like, wow, that's really nice. Like I could for sure come back, you know, a few times if I wanted to. So we haven't really decided where we want to go in the fall. We're throwing out the Carolinas, maybe Florida or Texas, but those, if you know anything about travel nursing, the contracts there are not very great. And we also talked about maybe Hawaii, but our dogs are a big problem with that. So I don't think I could leave my dogs, and then like quarantine, there's lots of stuff to figure out with that. So I'm kind of just trying to go with the flow, but we do think we want to go somewhere different in the fall. So lots of exciting things coming up. I'm just super pumped, and well, here I am talking about work. But some non-work things, I luckily was able to move my schedule around. My brother and his wife and 3 daughters, my cute little nieces, are in Florida. They rent a house in Florida for a few months during the winter. And my parents were going down to see them because they haven't seen them in a few months, and they asked if I could come, but I didn't think I was going to be able to make it work with work. My schedule was kind of sporadic that week, and I didn't really have any like few days off consecutively to where I could fly from Arizona to Florida, which is like this way, it's a whole day's trip because of the time change. But the returning, like I'll get home super early, but it's a full days of traveling. I mean, not a full days, but with the time difference, you lose a day basically traveling there. So I luckily was able to get things moved, and I get to go. So I'm super excited. I'm actually recording this the day before it's gonna post, which is a little crazy. Hopefully I get all this editing done, talking to you, future Brie, like come on, don't give up. But I'm working Monday, Tuesday. So I worked Friday, Saturday. Today's Sunday. Didn't work today, and then I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, fly out Thursday afternoon, and then get back Tuesday, work Wednesday. So it'll be a little tight, but you know what, like that is such a great thing about our jobs and shift work. Like you can have all these days off, no PTO, and I can go on vacation and visit family. So it's super awesome. I'm super pumped. Can't wait to see them and squeeze them and hug my nieces and my mom and dad, and obviously my brother and sister-in-law. But I'm just excited. I am really sad though because Brandon won't be able to go, and I'm leaving the pups for a few days, and that's always really hard for me and my babies, leaving my babies. But speaking of leaving my babies, we left my babies the other day when my friends came and stayed with us this last week for like 4 days, I think. And we ended up driving to Vegas the one day because my one friend really loves Gordon Ramsay, and she wanted to go to Hell's Kitchen, which we went there and ate. So we stayed the night in Vegas that night, and it was actually really fun. We did a lot of fun things. We went to a show. Brandon went to the UCLA Gonzaga game and loved that, and he was rooting for Gonzaga, and they won, but I think they lost now, right? So I think his bracket might be messed up. My bracket's messed up. I don't know anything about sports though, so like it's just a guessing game for me. But I had so much fun there, ate lots of good food, some fun drinks. Vegas is always a good time. I don't really like gambling, but I didn't lose any money. I hate gambling actually. Like I would so much rather go buy something than gamble, because I will sit, number one, I play the slots machine because I don't know how to do anything else. And so I'll like put $20 on a slot machine, and I swear to you, I will lose it in 2 minutes. And I'm like, well, that was fun. I just lost $20 sitting here clicking a button. But I actually didn't lose any money, so that's a good thing. But I really don't like gambling, and I never put extreme money into it like that. Like literally I'll do $20 and I'll be like, all right. Because I would rather spend that money shopping if I'm gonna spend the money and lose money like that. I'd rather get something out of it. But I feel like you know, just for, you're in Vegas. I'm in Vegas, I have to put money on a slot machine. But when they were here, we also went to some hot springs, and that was really nice. It was like a 6-mile hike. It was actually pretty crazy. But I've never seen or been in hot springs before, and oh my gosh, wow, like it was insane. There were like 3 different little pools of hot springs. The one pool the water was so hot, I couldn't even get into it. Like I stood right there and like the one rock was touching a little bit of water, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna burn my feet. Like insane how hot they get, but it's so stinking cool. What is on this beautiful earth? And just like all the hikes, I've been loving hikes. It's so fun. I'm just, the dogs love it. We took the dogs on like, it was more of a trail, but we let them climb some of the rocks with us, and they loved it. Belly didn't like it as much, but Betty Lou loves climbing rocks, which is super, I mean, she's 7 pounds. Like, it's not like she's a big dog that, you know, can climb. But she is like a goat. I swear to you, she's a goat. In more than one ways, okay? Greatest of all time and a goat. And she loved it. Absolutely loved it. The dogs were exhausted after. We got in and out, like just had so much fun, played lots of games. And it was really good to have them here and spend time with them and like get a little piece of home. And it was so sad. They flew out, and we went and got the dogs. We drove home, picked up the dogs I found a girl on Rover that watched them, and we picked them up. They were so excited to see us. We came home, and the last they knew, all of our friends were here. So they went to all the rooms that they stayed in and like were looking for them. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna cry. Like, are you sad we don't have visitors over anymore? It was so stinking cute. They melt my heart, okay? But I will be sad having to leave them again in a couple of days, but it'll be so much fun to go to Florida, relax a little bit, see family, because I haven't seen my family. I haven't seen my brother and my nieces in over 2 months, which is a long time. Like, we're a super close family, all of us, all of my siblings, and all my nieces and my nephew. I wish my whole family was gonna be there, because I have 3 siblings. I have 2 brothers and 1 sister, and it's just gonna be my 1 brother and his family. But it's okay. We'll reunite soon enough when I come home. And time is literally flying by. I'm like, wow, we have, like, everyone at work has given us so many recommendations of things we should do around here. And like, you know, someone said we should go to these places in California. Like, just since we're on this coast or on this side of the country, that, I mean, yeah, it might be like a 6-hour drive, but we drove 30 hours to get here. Like, a 6-hour drive really isn't that bad. Like, you might as well, since we're over here, go do these things that we've never done. So we're probably gonna do a few road trips if we can coming up here, because I'm like, wow, Brandon, we like only have 2 more months here. Like, I have this whole long to-do list of recommendations. Like, come on, we gotta get going. So lots of fun things coming up, but this is just like, it's been awesome. Like, being here, doing all these fun things, seeing all these things that we wouldn't normally see. Like, yes, I know people say like travel nursing isn't for everyone, and I totally respect that. And again, this is my first contract, and yes, it's been great, but I'm sure not all contracts are gonna be as amazing as this one. So, but I think it's just really awesome, the opportunities that come with it. Like, I would be stuck in Michigan right now, and instead I'm going on these beautiful hikes. I went to Vegas. Like, yes, you can travel on your days off wherever you are, but this is the whole new way of living and seeing the world that I didn't think would ever happen. Like, I truly thought I would live in Michigan for the rest of my life. Not that, you know, I've moved permanently, but like, I've lived in Arizona for a few months. Like, it's just super cool to say, and I know, like, looking back at this, it'll be like such a cool memory and such a cool time in my life. And I'm just so thankful that this is something that I could do, and I can't wait to share the rest of my journey with you guys. So thank you so much for supporting me. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube, give it a nice little thumbs up, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you liked this episode. I hope that you liked it on YouTube. If you watched it on YouTube, like, comment and let me know. And make sure to come back for more episodes. Follow me on all my socials. I'll have them all linked below. And I hope that everyone has a good day. Let me know if you want any specific guests or specific topics coming up, and I appreciate your support.